My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on in the MatSu Valley, which is actually, as we'll go over today, one of the most happening market in the entire state of Alaska. Before we do that, though, do make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff so algorithm knows to send you more content like this in the future as we move forward. And let's go ahead and jump into today's market update, looking first at the residential market. The first thing that we see is that this time last year, there were about 280 single-family properties that were available on the market. Now there's about 320. So we do see a slight increase for the number of properties that are available, which is kind of a welcome trend for a lot of buyers who are just trying to get their foot in the door and find a property. But 320 sounds pretty good, especially when you're looking at markets like, Anchorage, where I think it's about 120, or you're looking at places like Eagle River, where I think it's like 30. So way more options. And also, let's take a look, though, at how many options were available prior to COVID, because usually we would see about 600, 650 so properties available on the market. And so we're at about half of where we were before. But hey, I'll take that as opposed to 30%. Or even 20% of where we were before. I will take that. Now, the next thing we see is that the number of properties that actually sold went from about 137 this time last year to about 101 this year. So we did see a bit of a drop in the number of properties that actually sold for the month of March once we kind of compare them year over year. Not a big surprise here, though. We do kind of see some month-to-month fluctuations. The next couple months, it, not surprisingly, is projected to be pretty high just because it is the summer months. This is where the majority of properties do get bought and sold. Last but not least, we see the average sold price went from about $370 this time last year to about $428,000 this year, which, that is a pretty sizable jump compared to the year before. And actually, it's just about tied with the most highest increase we've seen on record compared to any other date. And that the other ones that we're looking at was July of 2023, where it's about 437,000. So the fact that it's only March, we're already hitting that benchmark, where up to this point, that was the highest one. And, we didn't quite pass that, but even that we're approaching it is kind of indicative that we are still seeing pretty aggressive appreciation in the MatSu Valley. Earlier this year in January, we saw a very slight decrease for the month of January, where it went about 380 and then it dropped down to about 354. But the next month it was up by about 18,000. And this month, obviously, we are just reaching for the stars. So you're going to have a couple months here and there where it's going to look like it's dropping, but by and large, we are still seeing a pretty aggressive appreciation in the MatSu Valley. And a big part of that is probably the new construction market, where this is where, if you're going to do new construction, by and large, it's going to be in the MatSu Valley, because this is where it's easier to build in the MatSu than most other places. And also, you're going to be getting more land. And if you're okay with the commute, getting usually for most people, driving from the MatSu Valley over to Anchorage, it's not a bad option at all. And I will also say commuting in Alaska is completely different than commuting in the lower 48. In Alaska, it's not bumper-to-bumper traffic. It is just about 30 or 40 minutes driving, pretty scenic road with, all the mountains and the rivers and everything else along the way. So completely different ball game. Now for this next one, we're going to be talking about what's going on with condos in the MatSu Valley. And this has never really been a particularly big section of the entire makeup of the real estate market here in the MatSu Valley, but it is here, so we are going to talk about it. So this time last year, there were 7 condos available, and this year there are 8. So, there you go. For the number of condos that have actually sold, it went from 2 this year and 5 last year. So seeing a bit of a dip for the number of condos actually selling. Last but not least, we see that the average sold price went from about $202,000 this time last year to about $252,000 this year for the month of March. So we are seeing a pretty good increase for the average sold price, at least the month over month. Once we kind of look at the yearly, we are seeing, it's kind of a small market, but if you had a condo this time last year and you have a condo this year, same time, then it's going to be worth more. I just wouldn't expect it to go up by necessarily $40,000, $50,000 anytime soon. But yes, value of condos in the MatSu Valley are going up. Let's go and take a break real quick here. For those of you who've been watching for a little bit now, you do know that we got this brand new studio in here, and it is absolutely incredible. And we're trying out some different things just with the background and everything. If you really do like kind of the black, kind of brooding kind of feel like what we've had in some other videos, or if you like this more light and bright kind of background and everything, do make sure you put your thoughts in the comment section down below. It really doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I can customize it pretty dadgum easily, so just let me know and we'll make sure to adjust to that. Also, if you haven't listened to the Alaskan Journey podcast recently, do make sure you go check that out because we've got the new studio. I have the ability to actually really stay on top of that and deliver podcasts and talking with people who've recently moved up to Alaska and hearing their experiences and tips and tricks that they have, being able to provide it in a high-quality way in this incredible space that we now have. Now, without further ado, let's go and finish up today's market update looking at the multifamily market. All right, so what we're seeing as far as the multifamily market and how much inventory we have this time last year, there were 28 properties that were on the market, and this year there are 28. So not a whole lot of change there, as you can see, and that's not necessarily the case we see for the entire year, but it's pretty neck and neck. It might not be the exact same number, but it's pretty close. Now, what we're seeing for the number of properties that have actually sold in multifamily, we see that this time last year there were 9 for the month of March, and this year there are 7. So seeing a slight decrease in the number of multifamily properties that have sold, which does kind of make sense when you think about it, because multifamily really does come down to the numbers. And with the interest rates being what they are, a lot of investors are just having issues with finding deals that actually do pencil out. And so for that reason, we're probably not going to be seeing a whole lot of multifamilies flying off the shelf anytime soon, or at least at the same rate that they were back in 2021 and 2020. Now, last but not least, what we're seeing as far as the average sold price for multifamily property is that month over month, it looks like we did see a decrease. This time last year, it was about $580, and now we're looking at $532. In the year before, or month before, for February in 2023, it was $612, and now for the month of February, just a couple months ago, it was about $581. So we did see a dip there, but before we get too excited, though, the month of January, we see that there was about $550,000 for 2023, and that jumped all the way up to $674, so $674,000. So what this really tells me is it all comes down to what properties specifically are selling. If you have like a big commercial type of property that sells, that just throws everything off, and then it makes the next year look really out of whack. So I'm not really, if you own a multifamily property this time last year and you still own it, chances are it's appreciated at a pretty good rate. I don't think necessarily like $150,000 appreciated, but I do believe it's appreciated at a pretty healthy rate. Really, the big thing with multifamily properties is you just want to see the cash flow goes up, because that is going to help you to really stay on top of the maintenance and everything else, which does make it a much more appealing kind of property later to sell if that is what you decide to do. So what does all this mean for you? Well, it means if you are a buyer, it means that the MatSu Valley has a lot more options available than you're going to find in a lot of other markets here in the area. You can watch all the recent market updates for Anchorage and Eagle River, and you'll get a pretty good sense that the MatSu Valley has a lot more inventory and options available for buyers than what you're going to find in any other part of the state. Also, what the takeaway is, though, is that even though there's more options, it is about half of what was available just a couple of years ago. So if you are on the fence trying to decide if you should jump in or not, and deciding if you should wait, like maybe for this time where just for some reason the interest rates come plummeting down again and you think you're going to jump in, then I would not recommend that strategy, because it is going to be an absolute bloodbath if that happens, because you're going to have a lot of people competing again, but the inventory and options available are going to be even less than what they were before. And so if you thought it was difficult competing before, you have not seen anything yet if the interest rates come down to what they were a couple of years ago, and we have the current inventory. What we have is a lot of sellers that are deciding just to hang on to their properties because they would normally sell and move, but they have their homes locked in like 2.5%, 3.5% interest rates, and they're like, man, I'm not going anywhere, because this interest rate is incredible, and if I went and bought something else right now, like what I could afford would actually be a step down. And so for that reason, we have a lot of inventory locked up because a lot of sellers are just not wanting to move because of the interest rates. And they're realizing what they would buy is probably not for as much as what they have right now. If you are a seller, this is all good stuff for you for the most part. The only downside is that if you do decide to sell, you do have to turn right around, usually for most people, and try to find another house in this market where the inflation and interest rates are not what they were a couple of years ago. Now, keep in mind, we got spoiled a couple of years ago and thinking 2.5–3% was normal, and that was not normal, okay? Something closer to about 5–7% in that range, like that's a historical normal, okay? So we're right about there. We've just gotten spoiled, and obviously inflation has gone up since then, but we can either complain about the wind or we can adjust our sails. That's really where we're at the moment. So that has been your market update. Thank you very much for watching. If you have questions, reach out to me, and we'll see you next time.